So when I first entered treatment, I was feeling pretty awkward. They told me to stay silent and to listen to other people's stories the first couple of weeks and not to share anything about me. The first 2 weeks at the center were absolutely awful. I was sweating and restless. I would wake up covered in a cold sweat. It would be so bad that I would have to change the bed sheets every single night. The alcohol was leaving my system and I was experiencing the symptoms of withdrawal. I would wake up in a cold sweat in the middle of the night, panicking, and I'd have to tell myself, you're in the treatment center and you're okay. And it was terrible. Eventually, I was fine. I remember the first week I was so ready to talk about everything that I needed to, but by the third week when it was my turn to talk, all I could really say was, oh, my name is Bobby, and I don't know. I didn't know what to say. They had AA meetings both on and off campus, and I would meet with an interpreter for my meetings. I was kind of expecting a lot of people to have the same situation as I did, but there were people of all ages, different men and women, people who had situations that were much worse than mine, people who had situations that were better. There were just people from all walks of life there. Some had been sober a few months, and some had been sober a couple of years. There was such a huge variety. However, we all had one thing in common, and that's that alcoholism had severely impacted our lives, and that we did not have control over our own lives anymore because of it. So I stayed in the treatment center for about a month, and I finished my inpatient treatment. So after that, I wasn't sure what to do, and I ended up in a halfway house. There were about 14 men there, all in the same house, and we shared everything. I did not have an interpreter for every meeting there. I only had an interpreter for one meeting in a week, and that was it. However, I was absolutely determined to get on the path of sobriety and take back control of my own life. I wanted to leave my old life in the past. And even without the interpreter, I would go to the meetings anyway. I'd set up the coffee station, even though I don't like coffee, but I wanted to be helpful, so I would do that at each meeting. You know the 90-90, not rule, but the 90-90 concept. You go to 90 meetings in 90 days. Well, for me, it was more like 180 meetings in 90 days. I would go up to 4 a day because I was just so determined to be sober. So I would go in, interpreter or not, and even though I couldn't understand the lecture, that was fine because it was a safe environment for me to be in, away from temptation of the outside world. So I went to those meetings religiously. I would bring the big book with me, and I would read the chapters beforehand. That way I could understand what was going on, even if I couldn't understand what was being said. And again, it was that safe environment that was so important for me to be in. They had a couple different types of meetings. They had AA, NA, and this CDA meetings. And I would go to all kinds of different meetings all the time. I would go to my job, be at work, and then I would immediately go back to the meetings when I was done because they were so helpful to me. You also get a sponsor in AA, but I was not satisfied with just one. I had 2 sponsors. And the reason was because, being deaf, it was really hard to get in touch with people back then. Now we have video phones and relay services, but we didn't have any of that back then. You had to get on the TTY and try to call people, and it was just such a hassle. So I had 2 sponsors. That way, if I couldn't get in touch with one, I had a backup, and they were very strict with me. Absolutely resolute that I follow the path to sobriety. So I finished steps 1 and 2, but on step 3 I got stuck. Step 3 is that you have to give your life up to God. And I really didn't get that. I thought, give my life up to God? I mean, what has he ever done for me? So I skipped step 3, essentially. My sponsors got on me and I went through the rest of the process. But later, then I was sort of able to understand the concept of giving my life up to God. But at the time, I just didn't get it. So I didn't say anything and I went along. Continued to go to the meetings. And wouldn't you know it, my life very slowly started to improve. It was not a fast process by any means. I would always have thoughts about going back and back to the drink, but I knew that it would just destroy my life if I did. In fact, I had cirrhosis of the liver because of my drinking problem. And my doctor told me that if I continued to drink, in a few months' time, I would be dead. I had to stop right then and there. And that stuck with me. I was not a candidate for liver transplant surgery, so I had to stop. And of course there were so many temptations around. I would go to the bar and I would have all these thoughts and I would just leave. But despite all that, I was serious about my treatment. Even though the communication was difficult and there were problems, it didn't matter to me because I was going to get sober. I never knew what the next day was going to bring, but that didn't matter. I woke up every day ready to face the challenges regardless, so that I could become sober. You just have to take it one day at a time. And as the years passed, little by little, things started to become easier. Again, not a fast process. It takes a while. But I kept going to the meetings, 2 or 3 meetings every single day. And because I went to so many, eventually I did meet some people that were deaf. And sometimes people relapsed or had problems, but we were all there together to support each other and spread a positive message and have a positive impact on each other. I even tried something new. I tried coffee, and when you know it, I didn't like it. Sometimes I think about my old life, but that's something that I want to leave in the past. My new life is so much more important. And with time, as the years have passed, things have gotten so much better. I've been sober 22 years now. And you'd think, maybe I'm in a nice, comfortable spot. Well, I mean, no, because there's always going to be temptations and problems in the world. Everyone has problems. I have problems with family, with my work, with friends. That's normal. And there are worldly pressures, too. Not just personal problems, but things just that everyone has to deal with. And it's very stressful, but that's normal. That's totally fine to see the temptation, but you just can't follow it. I know that if I go back to my old life within that first drink, that will be it for me. I will be a goner. So I can't go back to that. I want to be happy with my life, and I have to be sober to do that. I also think it's very important to help other people. I see people with the same problems that I went through, and I think, I can help them. Looking back, the people in that treatment center gave me so much help and support. I feel like it's my turn to pass that on through AA and stay connected with the people so that I can help them help them get through what I did. All that positivity has encouraged me to come out and share my story to help other people as well. And I have received a lot of help from God as well, because I finally understood that third stage. And the Deaf Off Drugs and Alcohol program also really helped me to stay sober. You can reach that stage, even if it's not easy. It has not been easy for me, but I'm happy with my life, and I'm going to continue to stay positive and take each day just one day at a time. And I want to thank you so much for listening to my story. Thank you.